Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask Matt Live, where I'll be answering your questions live. Oh, man. Hope everyone's having a great day. I thought I would do this today at, it's noon here, where I'm at Central Time, and I thought that would be a nice change from doing it at night. I feel like noon-ish time should be a little better of a time. People have desk jobs here in the States. They can be at their desk working and watching this maybe. And then that allows people in like Europe to be able to actually watch this at a decent time. It's evening there. So I'm hoping this time works a little better than doing it at night for more people to be able to watch and participate in this whole thing. I do have my notes over here on a computer over here. So if you see me looking here and over there and back and forth, that's why. And another thing I'll mention too is if you're watching this over on YouTube, in the description box, there's a link to the Google Plus page. Click on that link and head over there and watch it over there and actually go into the, I don't know what you want to call it, the room or whatever. And that'll allow you to actually post questions, and you can vote questions up or down so they can be higher in the queue for me to actually answer. So if I want to make that quick note. I do have some pre-submitted questions here. I actually have a pretty good amount of questions that a few people sent in, I guess, yesterday and today. Some questions I can answer before we get rolling. I see Art already posted a question, which I'll get to as well. And before we get started, I thought I would give a little bit of a backstory on my history here on YouTube, or I guess the last year and a half of my life. Today, I kind of want to spend a little time and talk about a little bit more about behind the scenes, what it's like to be doing this full time, how it's possible, all that stuff. Because I've been getting a lot of questions lately. I don't know why. It's not like it's a bad thing, but I've been getting a lot of questions about, the behind the scenes kind of stuff. So I thought it must be a topic that people are really interested in. And I really haven't seen, I don't know if anyone's done anything that they've talked a little bit more about their business model and how they're able to make this a living. So thought that'd be an interesting topic for today. So feel free to ask any questions you want today. Leave those over there in the box there, and I'll be sure to get to them. I'm gonna just make sure that everything is working right before I start talking, like my microphone's not working or something stupid. Just check that real quick. I don't know, I think it's working. So I'm going to be, I think I can do this. I'm going to be pulling this down after it's posted, and I'm going to edit it a little bit to make it a little cleaner. I know a lot of the times, or like in the past when I've done this, it's always just going to take me some time. There's going to be a little bit of delay between me answering a question and then going to look at the questions and reading them and all that. So I want to cut those delays out of the final video. So I'll be pulling this down after it's posted, then I'll edit it and re-upload it. So let's get into the show. If you know what that reference is from, props to you. So a little bit of a backstory. So I started posting videos on YouTube in January of 2014. And I started with my shop updates. And fun fact, I've done a shop update every week since that January. I've done 79, maybe it's 80 now, in a row. Every single week, haven't missed a week. So that's pretty cool. But the reason I started doing the videos, and I started with the shop update, I wanted, for so long, I wanted to do woodworking videos. I really felt that'd be a really fun and interesting thing for me to do. It's just something I really wanted to do, and I never got the courage, I guess, to actually get out there and get something on the internet. So I did do videos before. I shot tons and tons of video in the years prior, from like 2009 through 2014. I actually shot whole project videos. Like, I built this whole project, I filmed the whole thing, and as I went through and I watched that footage, it was not good. And I never got around to actually editing it because I never felt that it'd be good enough to actually post. And then last year, I was like, I came to that point where I'm like, I'll never get good at talking to a camera, being in front of a camera, and I'll never get better at speaking and forming thoughts and having, decent things to say if I don't practice. And I'm still practicing, I'm still learning, so you'll kind of notice that here probably, as I'm not as well spoken as it seems I am in my videos, because I have the joy of editing there. So I started posting those videos. This is more of a self-improvement thing, just to kind of get in front of the camera and start talking. And I did that. Well, I'm still doing shop updates, but I did only shop updates for 5 months through the end of May. And then I posted my first build video, which is my first video that was not a shop update. And that was the T-chest video. And that video got picked up or posted, or Dave Picciuto posted it on his weekly wrap-up in June of that year. And that was like the first real exposure that I ever got. So for those first 5 months, my channel grew from nothing, from no subscribers to 120 subscribers, I think. And then from there, that video hit, and then it just started growing like by the thousands per month. So that was incredible, just to be able to have that kind of exposure and that push forward. So that happened, and then I kept posting videos and all that stuff. You can kind of go back and you can see all the videos I did. And then I got really, I got more into it. I got a lot more like, I'm going to start doing this a lot more in October, or I think it's late October, November of 2014. And I started posting a shop update and maybe another video, like a build video or a tips video or whatever. I wasn't doing tips videos back then. So I guess a build video or something, some other video besides a shop update. And I was doing that maybe once a week, or maybe I might skip a week here and there. But for the most part, it's getting a lot more consistent with content besides a shop update. And then in the middle of December, I was laid off from my full-time job. And I spent like those 2 weeks before, it was like the end of the year. So I spent the last half of that month kind of doing a little bit of job hunting, but really just kind of taking my time with it, because it was Christmas time and no one was really hiring or doing interviews over those few weeks anyway. So I went through the whole process, and as I was doing my job searching, I started to focus more on the channel, just doing more videos. I just had more time. As although job searching is pretty close to a full-time job, I was used to working, 50, 60 hours a week anyway. So I had a good chunk of time that I would normally be working that I was not working. So that worked out pretty well to grow the channel. And then as I kept growing, the momentum was still there. I just loved it. There was nothing in the world that I'd rather be doing than doing this. So my wife and I, we talked about it for a while. We're kind of going back and forth on it. And I think surprisingly, she was more for it than me. I knew that this is something that I wanted, but I knew that it was going to be a climb to get it to the income level or anywhere near the income level that I was at previously. And if my wife wasn't working full time, there's no way that I'd be able to do this as I am right now. So was it March? I actually stopped my job search altogether, and I announced that I'd be doing this full time. And it's been the busiest, 4-5 months of my life so far, but also some of the best. So really happy that I'm doing this, and it's been absolutely great. So that's my little backstory, I guess. And I guess from the end of the year till right now, at the end of the year on December 28th, the only thing I really have for statistics is my subscriber count and my view count, because that's really all that we have. Well, that's all I have, really. So for the end of the year, I was at 10,000 subscribers. I hit that on December 28th or 29th, and now we're to 28,500, something like that. So the growth rate has been, it's not been exponential for me. It's been linear, which is interesting, but I'm fine with it. I'm happy. So should we get into some questions? All right. This is the part I'll be cutting out. The part where I go, and I pick a question. All right. Adam wants to know what percentage of your income comes from different sources. Pretty sure I had this one submitted previously too. But so I don't know what order it is. So for YouTube, I have the ad revenue from that, and that is 15% of my income. Patreon and my recurring PayPal donations, like direct viewer support, PayPal, Patreon, and one-time donations, that's another about 15%. I also have my affiliate links. So if you buy things through Amazon using my link, or you buy anything from the Voodoo Whisperer Guild, And now Highland Woodworking, if you buy any of those things through my links, I get a part of that that sale, and that comes in at around 7 to 10% depending on the month. And the lumber sales makes up the rest of my income. And the hard thing about the lumber sales is that it is very inconsistent, is probably a good word for it. It varies a lot. So I can't really like I can't start a month and know that I'm going to sell this much lumber. That's pretty much impossible because it's all over the board. And the hard thing with lumber as well is it's very close to being a seasonal business. I do more business between September through November than I do the entire rest of the year. So it's kind of hard to predict those sales, but I do know at least in the fall, I'll have problems keeping inventory here, which is a good problem. But my turnover rate here during the rest of the year is really high. So I hope that answers that question. I hope. Okay, Art wants to know about the website and the shopping cart stuff. So the website is a WordPress website, and I have the WooCommerce e-store, e-commerce plugin thing for the WordPress site. And then that plugin itself is free. And then if you want to do things with that plugin, that's where they actually make their money. So I accept credit cards on there. So you can actually, PayPal is free for me to accept. And then the credit card thing, you can buy the plugin to accept credit cards there. That's $80. And then now I can accept credit cards for, I think that plugin is good for a year. And that is through Stripe, which will charge me the credit card fees on the back end. But other than that, the cart doesn't cost me any monthly amount or any, it doesn't matter how much I sell, it still costs me the same amount of money. And the cart is still good for the digital goods. So the plans I started selling, they're on there as well. Doesn't cost me anything to sell them besides the startup cost of having that cart there. And the other plugin I have for WooCommerce is the UPS calculated shipping thing for shipping lumber. So at least I have an idea of how much, or so the buyer knows how much the shipping is going to be on that product. Other than that, that's pretty much the only cost. That plugin's $80 as well. So to get that whole cart set up, it cost me $160 to get going with that. What's up, Andy? How do I come up with my style? This isn't acting. We're not actors. I'm not an actor. I am myself. That's kind of the nice thing about YouTube is you get to be yourself and you can do whatever you want to do that makes you comfortable and happy on camera. So, and that in itself is a whole, sorry, there's a mosquito in here. Get out of here. That in itself is a whole learning experience and comfortability for me. At least it was. So I'm not good in front of a camera. Well, at least I was not as good as I am now. I'm still not that great, but just being natural and being able to just kind of talk like you're talking to anyone else is really how I found my own ability to be me on camera. What really helped me to get to that point was when I finally realized, and I heard this a lot before I realized it, but so many people always said that just when you talk to the camera, just imagine you're talking to someone. And I never really got that until it really clicked one time, and I was just like, I'm talking to the camera, but I'm not really talking to them. I'm talking to the people that are going to be watching this. So I thought, in my mind, I'm thinking of the people that are always commenting on my videos, my core audience. That's who I'm talking to. I know who I'm talking to. I know what they're going to say. I can kind of, I don't know, I can kind of giggle a little bit because I know what they're going to be thinking about my comment or whatever. So it's really a more personal experience because I know who I'm talking to, in a sense of I see their comments and we communicate online. So that helps a heck of a lot. I'm just looking at my saved questions here. Okay, I'm going to jump into a couple of these saved questions real quick. Brandon sent me an email with a few questions, and I've answered 1 and 2 already, but he also wants to know what are my 3 biggest costs. And I'm guessing that is going to be more like recurring costs on a month-to-month basis. And there's not really any large costs to do this on a month-to-month basis. I mean, I pay for a Creative Cloud suite for my editing and all my a digital workflow. That's $50 a month. I'm not really sure whether I should have written this one down. But if you're looking at larger costs, like my biggest cost as far as startup goes, or recurring costs on the other side, like on the lumber side, that's where my biggest costs are, but it's also my biggest revenue source. So my biggest cost over there is somewhat recurring is most of my lumber comes from where you see me cut it in the woods from that property. But that property does not have any walnut trees on it, and people want walnut, and walnut's my best seller. Walnut sells no matter what. So I buy my walnut from a guy that his family owns a lumber or a land clearing business, and he works there during the week. And on the weekends, he has a little sawmill operation that he saws those logs into lumber. So I buy that lumber from him probably like 3 or 4 times so every 3 or 4 months, and that's my biggest expense is buying that wet lumber from him, because I buy about 1,000 board feet at a time there. So that's kind of the hard thing about. I have the digital business, which is great because it doesn't take any money. You don't have to put any money into it to make money. On the lumber side of things, it's a traditional, almost retail business because you have to buy inventory. You have to hold inventory. I can't, as much as I want to bring in, 10,000 board feet to sell, I don't know where to put it. I've got the same issues with that retail has. So that's sort of an interesting thing with that. The other largest expense I've had so far is the trailer. That's been my biggest one so far. All right, let me get back to these live questions. Joshua wants to ask, well, he did ask, he didn't want to ask, he did it. Realistically, how do you expect your schedule / productivity to change after the baby comes? You seem busy with projects already and babies are a lot of work. That is true. And what I try to, think, I guess, is that we're not the first family to have 2 working parents. So although I know I won't be able to spend nearly as much time as I have on this when the baby's here, because honestly, I probably don't want to either, because I want to be with my child and my family. That's obviously more important than this. Sorry. As much as I love you guys. So right now, I think I had a question about this somewhere too. One of the saved questions is about this, how much I work. So right now I'm working about 100 hours per week. I work 16-hour days Monday through Friday, and I pick up 8 or 10-hour days on Saturday and Sunday. So that is my schedule now. And obviously I know that's not going to be that feasible once I have a child here, which is fine. And that has been what I've been working towards this whole time. So I like to think of myself as a little more of a strategic person. So this whole time that I've been doing this, I've known I had a baby on the way, and I knew that I had to set the groundwork for this thing to continue on its path after the baby is here. So I've been spending a ton of time on the front end here, establishing this thing as something that's moving forward on its own, essentially, so I can cut back my hours. So ideally, I think where I'm going to be at is probably more in the 50 to 60, maybe probably 60-hour range once the baby is here. It's going to be a little different for the first 2 months because Lindsay will be here on maternity leave. And I'm going to be spending a lot of time with her and the baby because that's something we've been looking forward to for a long time, is us both being home with the baby and having that experience. But once she goes back to work, I'll kind of have to see where I can get the time in, I guess. But I don't plan on stopping, that's for sure. Hope that answers the question. KRT Woodworking. Is that you, Kevin? Look, you got a different name now. Have you looked at selling finished products either through your website or Etsy? Cutting boards? Yep, there's a lot of cutting boards there. Why are you screwing around on YouTube? Instead of help me carry a 11 into the basement. Yeah. As much as I love carrying things. I have thought of selling finished products online. The cutting boards will be one thing that I will do as soon as they are ready. The problem I have with that is it takes me time to make those things. So I only have so much time, and I'm looking at things that will how can I best use my time to establish this business so I can go into the future. And my future, honestly, I do not want to be doing finished goods. That's not my main focus. My main focus is really going to be on the education side and the lumber side. The finished goods side will always be a small part of that business because it is something that I do as a woodworker, which is great, but it's not something that I want to be focusing on. I don't want to be a slave to making things just to sell them. I'm already a slave to making videos. But it's a fun slave thing. I like it a lot. All right. John wants to know, how long does your weekly video take to edit post-production, and what editings would you use? My update video takes me about, it's a 4-hour round trip thing. It's been a little quicker lately, but traditionally or historically, it's been about 4 hours. I usually start shooting it at 6, and I'll have it shot within 20 minutes, half an hour or so, including the setup. And that'll take me about an hour and a half to 2 hours or so to edit, and then an hour to do the thumbnail, the description, the links, and then promote it on all of the other mediums. So that's one thing. If I'm doing a build video, that takes me at least 20 hours. Well, depending on how long it is and how many parts I can break it up into. It'll take me from between 16 to maybe 20, 24 hours to edit and post. The changing table, I did both halves of those, took me about 16 hours a piece to edit. And working on the bassinet video right now, and that has it has over 100 different clips of footage that I have to assemble into something that is, somewhat of a decent pace I'm going to try and get that one down to one video. So that is probably going to take me another 16 hours. But like if you're looking at an instructional video, those take me a little bit longer. How I dovetail a drawer video, that took me 22 or 24 hours to edit or to do round trip. I think it took me 6 hours to shoot that video. That's the longest I've ever spent dovetailing a drawer. And then the rest of the time was all in editing. So that was a very long one, but I think it's worth it in the end. Gut Wood Workshop. How much money do you make from woodworking and selling lumber actually comes from making videos? Basically trying to figure out how feasible money-wise it would be to eventually do videos of woodworking full-time. I answered that one earlier. I make 15% of my income is from ads on the videos, and then another 15 from viewer support. Brandon asks, you replied to a comment on another recently Go Full-Time YouTube woodworker stating you can't live off YouTube only. What are the other sources of revenue, and what's their pieces of the pie? Oh, everyone wants to know this. Everyone must be joining late. So the ad revenue I make is 15%, and then viewer support is 15%. Affiliate links, affiliate sales is another, 7 to 10, and then the lumber sales accounts for the other, 60% of my income. Yeah, that's it. I don't have any money to buy a table saw. How can I get away without a table saw? If you have a circular saw, you can always make one by just screwing it to the bottom of a piece of plywood and doing it that way. I get by, I know you don't have a bandsaw because you just told me the other day you don't have one, but I get by with my bandsaw a lot. A lot of things I do on my bandsaw or my table saw are pretty much interchangeable. I have it set up pretty well especially with the blade I have in it right now, that carbide blade. It works just like a table saw blade, so it is extremely accurate, and it's a lot more accurate than those traditional steel blades. So either that or maybe a handsaw, I guess. Before people had table saws, it was all hand saws, but the table saw is very versatile, so that's kind of why it's hard to replace it. So yeah, I don't know, circular saw. If you get a circular saw, you could probably do a lot of the things you can do on a table saw with that. Donnie S. Matt, your work in craftsmanship is awesome. Thank you. Is there a reason you don't sell built products? I don't sell built products because finding that market is a whole job in itself. Selling my built products would not be something that I could just post. And you can do it. I mean, a lot of people do it, but as I said, it's a whole job in itself, and I prefer to be spending my time making the videos and helping people with their own woodworking than trying to sell my products. Just because of the cost that would be involved with buying something that I made. That's just kind of where it's at. Honestly, if you wanted to buy if you wanted me to build you a secretary desk like the one I built, it would be about $10,000. So, and I'm not saying people wouldn't spend that kind of money on something like that, but it is very uncommon these days for people to be buying those higher end heirloom quality pieces. And that is a very niche market so if you had the furniture buying market, the people that are buying the stuff that I've been making is like this. So you really have to spend a lot of time actually marketing yourself and getting into that niche just to be able to sell to those people. So, I mean, it's possible, but it's not something that I would want to pursue because I prefer the videos. William wants to know about ad blockers, if it affects me. I guess it does, because if you're blocking the ads, it means I don't get the, whatever it is, half a cent or whatever it is if you watch one of the ads. I personally, I don't, if you look at any of my videos, and when I'm watching other people's videos, the one thing I hate about the YouTube ads is those stupid banner ads that pop up like right here. I hate them because I have to click them away, and I don't want to move my mouse because I'm too lazy. So on all of my videos, you will not see any of those. So I do take in less ad revenue because of that, but I prefer my viewer experience to be better than the small amount of money I would get from actually having those ads. I had the pre-roll ads. They pay a lot better than those little banner ads, but they're shown less. So I don't know. As I said, the ad revenue is not a very big part of my income anyway, so I guess please don't use an ad blocker on my videos, but I understand. Hey, Matthias, what portion of your lumber sales are local versus online? Almost all of my stuff is local. It is a lot more feasible for me to be selling locally than online. I have posted stuff online just because it's, why not? It gives the viewers an opportunity to purchase something they might not have locally. But unfortunately, the thing that sucks about posting those things online is I have to factor in the ridiculous amount of time it takes for me to actually post that online and ship it. Because when you're buying that piece of lumber from me, you're really paying for all the time that goes into, I surface it because it makes it easier to photograph so people can actually see what they're getting. So the surfacing takes me maybe 10 minutes to surface a small slab. And then it might take me some time to take a picture of it and then bring the pictures on my computer and make them look better so that the pictures are a little clearer, the color balance is right, all that stuff. And then I have to post it on my website, add a description, weigh the thing, measure the thing, put those dimensions in, and then it sits there. And I got to have that piece of wood sitting in my shop or wherever I store it. So that goes back to the retail thing before with floor space. And then when it actually sells, I don't just ship it like that. I wrap it in cardboard so it's protected. That takes, every single slab is a different shape and size or whatever. Every single slab is a custom boxing job. And that takes me about 20 minutes. I have to print a label for it. And then I have to I can either go drop it off at the UPS store, or I can pay for them to come ship it or come pick it up, which is another $5. So, so to answer the original question, what portion? I would say probably under less than 10% is online, and maybe even 5%. Local is a lot easier because someone can come by and buy 100 board feet at a time. It's a lot more feasible than doing that online. But you could buy 100 board feet from me online if you want, and I will ship it free. It will cost more to ship it than the cost of the lumber. Donnie asked, any suggestions on finding quality lumber when mills are not abundant? Well, if there's no mill, then it's probably going to be hard to find lumber locally that's being locally sawn. But I'm not sure where you live, Donnie, but if there are trees where you live, there's a very, very, very good chance that there's someone cutting them into lumber. And I think the hardest part about that is finding those mills and finding those people that actually have the sawmills to cut them. So you can use the Wood-Mizer Sawyer search thing on their website to find a local sawyer if they have a Wood-Mizer saw. I think it's just Wood-Mizer saws. I don't know. But I've had a lot of great luck on Craigslist. Before I lived here in Minneapolis, I lived in La Crosse, and I found a guy on Craigslist that was selling lumber down there. And there were no lumber yards or hardwood lumber yards in that area, or none that did retail sales. So that's the road I went. I went Craigslist there, and I still went Craigslist when I moved here. And then now I'm selling on Craigslist, and that's where all of the majority of my business comes from, is my Craigslist posts. And the videos, to kind of go on a tangent here, the videos do two things for me. There's a small amount of people that get driven from the videos or from my social media that don't realize that I am in Minneapolis and I'm selling lumber, and then they convert to lumber customers. But there's also the Craigslist ad that they view the ad. I have a link to my website in the ad. They go to my website, they see that I'm legitimate, and that kind of encourages them to give me a call or send me an email or send me a text or whatever to actually come and look at the wood. So if the mills aren't abundant by you, to really search around, I guess. You'd be really surprised. And depending on how much you searched already, I think you might be surprised with how much there is around you, if there are trees around you. Unless you're in the desert, then there's probably someone cutting lumber. Augusta wants to know, have I ever thought about creating the Matt C. Guild? And yeah, exactly. I have, and I guess I can announce that today. I will be starting to record some classes that I will have for sale after we're kind of done with some time with the baby. So probably whenever this baby's born. So I'll probably start shooting classes in mid-August. And I'm not sure on the first project yet, but I do have a few ideas for projects that I'll be doing as a class that you can purchase and take with me online. I'm sure people want to know about what that's going to do to the content that I produce for the YouTube channel. And to be honest with you, you probably won't notice much, if any, of a difference than it's been for the past probably month or so. So in the beginning of the year, I was just putting out a lot of content, because part of my strategy was to grow the channel and grow the audience. And one great way to do that is to produce more videos. Not only is to make your channel more active, but to have a bigger catalog of content that people can go back and watch and people can find you based on. So as I get past this childbirth thing, I'll be transitioning into the actual class stuff. And you probably won't notice much of a difference, to be honest. I'll still do the weekly updates, and I'll still try to make those valuable. And then I will continue to do at least one video a week on either an Ask Matt or a build video or tip video or something like that, just so you have that content as well. But look forward to some classes. And obviously with the shop updates, you'll be able to kind of see and watch as the classes progress and as I build that project and as I film those classes. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a pretty big learning experience for me, because that's a totally different, kind of a different workflow than just taking a camera and filming what I'm doing. So it should be a fun time. Where can I buy a Matt Cremona shirt? You can't buy them yet. Sorry, Thomas. I will have, I'm working on a logo design right now, so then I'll be able to produce a lot more branded stuff that I'll have for sale in my store, including t-shirts and that kind of stuff. Tim wants to know, just curious, you changed careers to do this full time. What was your career before? Does it lend itself to woodworking or making YouTube videos? So before, I was working for a startup software company. I did did a lot of things because it's a startup and you wore a lot of hats. So my primary role was product management, which included, well, it was primarily managing the development team and basically creating like mock-ups and whatever the guides are for them to build off of. So translating what the user kind of wanted or what the workflow for the user was, and translating that into something that could be built by the developers. So that included the mock-ups of the user interface, the database design, some overall logic for the UI as well. And then the other thing I did there is I did a lot of the operations management, a lot of day-to-day management of the company, the financial projections, and all that fun stuff. So I did a lot of that stuff, and did it lend itself to making woodworking videos. That really didn't. I guess, if anything, that gave me a very good understanding of business. I did go to school for business, and I'll tell you what, working at a startup, starting from nothing, I was the first employee there. I started there before that business was even established as a company. Going from that to all the way through into having a product that was for sale on the market that you were supporting and all that, that in itself was a huge learning experience for me, and I learned a lot from that. And more than anything, I can apply those experiences and everything I learned there to starting this business, which, to be honest, this is a startup business. I'm an entrepreneur in a sense, and this business did not exist before I started it, and it's still growing, and I'm putting a lot of time in now so that it will grow and be more successful in the future. Tyler, 100 hours a week. When and how do you find time to watch other creators' content? I watch them all the time. So if I'm sitting at the computer, maybe answering email, that's probably the biggest time that I'll be watching the videos. Otherwise, I watch YouTube videos for about a half hour to an hour in bed before I go to sleep. And then I eat breakfast and I watch my YouTube videos then as well. And if I want to take a break from what I'm doing, I might just totally just stop and watch a video as well. So I actually do watch a lot of videos, which is a lot of fun, actually. I really do enjoy that quite a bit. And I think this is actually a good question. Sarah asked me about my marketing of my videos and how much time do I spend on that and what marketing do I do for my videos. I do no direct marketing of my videos. I don't really think that's not the best way to go for me. I don't do any self-promotion. I don't post my videos places for people to find them. I let my videos promote themselves. And I promote my videos in a sense by being a part of the community. So if I am watching other people's videos, I'm on social media, I'm answering questions that way, I think it's a way more valuable way for me to prove the value of my content. And I'm making videos that I think are really good. Well, I'm happy with them, and I think that they'll speak for themselves. So if I make a video that's shareable, it's searchable, it's something that people are actually interested in, people will find my videos and they'll be more inclined to stick around. That's just the way I do it. I haven't done any self-promotion and I haven't paid for any advertising on my videos. Braxton, I think I just answered that. The way that I did it was just producing videos that people seemed to like and shared, and I got noticed for them, I guess. Jason wants to know, if you skip the ads, do I still receive revenue? I have no idea, to be honest. If I just off of my own logic, if I look at the analytics thing and it tells me the number of impressions to me means how many times this ad was seen. So I don't know if that means that they've seen the whole thing. If you watched it for 29 of the 30 seconds and then you skipped it, did I just lose all of that revenue, or is it like a sliding thing? I have no idea. I'm sure someone knows. I should probably find out. Maxwell, I see you came up with some questions. I didn't intimidate you too much. What are you going to name your child? Do you have any family members laugh like you? What is your ethnicity as a child? What did you want to be when you became an adult? What is your ultimate career goals? So, okay, let me ask you one at a time. What are you going to name your child? It's a secret. Do you have any family members that laugh at you? I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who laughs like me. People have tried to steal that from me. Try to be like me and laugh like me before, which is kind of weird. What's my ethnicity? I am half Italian and half Maltese. As a child, I went through like the typical child stuff. I wanted to be like a firefighter, and I wanted to be an astronaut. And then when I actually became like old enough to actually pick a career kind of thing, I had no idea. I just wanted to do what I liked. So I guess I'm kind of doing that now. My ultimate career goals is just to continue doing what I like to do, create some kind of positive impact in the world, and eventually retire to some extent. Probably not 100%, but yeah. The Nick Fury shirts with my face on it, those are a limited edition thing right now. Maybe they'll be for sale someday, but right now they're limited. I think there's only like 5 of them in the world. I have 2 of them. He might have more for himself now. I don't remember. Another great question from Maxwell. Are you going to or planning to build a larger shop for increased woodworking? Not on this property. I will not be. Whenever we move, I'm hoping that we will have the opportunity to purchase something with a lot more land on it that has trees that I could actually cut myself for my own work, as well as build a large shop. And I would absolutely build it just like the woodpecker did. I have no interest in, well, I don't want to say that. I enjoy doing things myself. So unless for some reason I don't have the time to build a whole shop myself, I'll be building it myself because I really do enjoy that a lot. Do you ever have a whole day where you just want to sit on the couch and do nothing? I have those days. After, was it last week? I think last week I did the changing table. Last week I did the changing table build video part 2 and the plans. I did those both in like 3 days. It was the only thing I did for those 3 days. I didn't do anything else besides eat and sleep. And on that Friday, I was like, I'm done today. So I didn't take the whole day off, but I took like maybe 3 or 4 hours. And I just kind of sat and just kind of recharged, because that kind of happens. You know, you do so much so long, you just kind of have to take a break. But going back to Tyler's question, I watched a lot of YouTube videos that day as well. Hey, Jonathan, have you found it difficult to manage multiple streams of income versus one? How do you forecast and plan, or have you gotten to a point where there is a consistent baseline of revenue that you can count on? Those are great questions. The nice thing about the streams of income I have is they're kind of self-sustaining and they kind of take care of themselves as long as I am doing what I'm doing now, as long as I'm producing content, as long as I'm interacting with the community, as long as I am still here, alive. So that is kind of nice. I don't have to really manage anything. It just kind of happens. They kind of stream into me. The nice thing about the lumber thing is it doesn't take a whole lot of time out of my week. I probably, depending on the week, I might spend maybe 8 to 10 hours that week doing lumber related things. So I might be moving lumber around, stacking. Obviously appointments take time as well for people to come and look at the lumber. So that's kind of that chunk of time there. As far as forecasting goes, I kind of have that baseline of my ad revenue and my viewer support. My viewer support, at least the recurring viewer support, that's always there, so I can always count on that unless it changes. But for the most part, that stays very consistent. And the ad revenue stays fairly consistent as well, but it is growing as the channel grows and as the view count grows per month. So that's kind of nice. I don't know if you were here earlier, Jonathan, but I mentioned in the beginning that the lumber sales, very hard to forecast. They are very seasonal. I sell more lumber between September and November than I do the rest of the year. And right now is like the worst time of the year to sell lumber. It's just extremely slow because no one is in their shop, I guess. But then fall comes and everyone's like, let me get back in the shop and build something. And then they want to buy lumber. So looking forward to September. So kind of going to forecasting is I sort of plan my inventory to be ready for those surges. So I have my really big surge at the end of the year or in the fall, and then there is a slightly smaller one in the early spring as well. So I try to have my shed fully stocked and then the basement stocked, and then have something ready at the farm that's ready to come in that's dry as well if I sell everything. Because in the fall, when I think someone asked me that in the Joshua asked me on the shop update how long I've been selling lumber. I've been doing it. This would be my third year, and the first year I did it, I couldn't keep inventory here because I started in the fall and I couldn't keep inventory here. So I would bring a trailer full of lumber here, and I wouldn't even bother unloading it because I knew it was actually sold before I actually got it here because I had so many people that were contacting me ahead of time. So that's interesting. Dima. Why is this during the day when most people are working? Well, you're at work and you're watching this. I thought that it would be more people would be able to watch this throughout the world if it was during the day, because a lot of people have desk jobs and they could probably watch this from their desk as they're working during the day, over lunch, etc. And then this would include the people in Europe, because when I do it at night, I get a lot of emails from everyone in Europe that says they can't watch it because it's like 4 or 3 in the morning and all of that stuff. So I'm going to see. I guess we'll see if this was a better time for more people than in the evening. Which lumber do you sell more of, kiln dried or air dried? And what type of lumber do you carry? I sell more air dried than kiln dried because I have more air dried lumber just in general, because the kiln is only so big to dry so much at once. And what type of lumber do I carry? I carry anything that grows in Minnesota, or in, I guess, specifically in the Minneapolis, Twin Cities, St. Paul area. That would include, if I get my hands on something more exotic, like a yard tree that might not naturally grow here, I would have that in inventory as well, but that's a little rare. I always have cherry. That's like the constant thing. There's a lot of cherry here, so it's always cherry, white oak, red oak, walnut, all different kinds of maple. Also have right now ash. I don't know, that kind of stuff. So pretty much anything that grows locally, I have, because it all costs me the same to cut. All right, Tyler. Hey, Matt, no baby. No baby. What's your take on sponsorship by a tool company? And what are your opinions on why more YouTubers don't pursue sponsorships? They are there to be had, fix and build that. Okay. Depending on why more YouTubers don't pursue sponsorships, they are there to be had. Okay, well, oh, fix this, build it. Okay, those are the names. Brad. Sorry, I didn't realize that you're listing off people's names there. I didn't see the semicolon. All right, so sponsorships by tool companies, that's fine. If that's the revenue, if that's the business model that you want to go with, that's totally fine. YouTube business models, I'll generalize a little bit, and I'm not going to really comment on what other people do for their own income as far as the full-timers go. But as far as advertising goes, there are two encompassing like business models or business arrangements you can have to generate revenue besides the Google AdSense. So you can either have the paid promotion, whereas you just mention pink water bottle. Check it out. They paid you. I just got paid to say it's a pink water bottle. Doesn't matter if you go buy that water bottle, whatever. That's one model, just for a shout out or just for a product promotion like that or product placement. The other model is for the YouTuber to actually sell something. And for me, that is probably going to be the bigger one for, well, it is already the model I use the most. So that is either the pink water bottle. The pink water bottle company pays me a certain amount of money depending on how many people from my channel go to the website and buy this pink water bottle. That's one way. That's a direct product on screen placement. You also have the opportunity to sell your own stuff, which is more of my thing. That's what I am trying to do So I am selling lumber. I'm going to start selling plans, selling classes. I am promoting my own products on my own channel, and that's more of my thing. I don't really care for promoting other people's businesses for the most part, because it doesn't really help me, other than that little bit of money I get because someone bought something that they were selling. So those are the kind of like the two main things. And then there's some crossover here and there, but those are kind of like, to generalize, those are your main revenue things as far as working with advertisers go. I think I answered that. I need some water. In reference to making, this is from Mike, in reference to making videos for your channel to add content, do you think it's acceptable to post all sorts of videos, shop projects, builds, etc., they're not necessarily all woodworking related, or does the focus need to be strictly on woodworking? I don't think so. That is, at least for me, it's definitely not the case. So it really depends on the audience expectations that you build from the start. So if you started off being, and you've always been, I just do woodworking, all you're going to see me do is woodworking, you're here to see my brand, which is a woodworking brand. That's fine. That's kind of one way you can do it. If you post something that's not woodworking related, people might still watch it, but you'll probably have less of a view, amount of people that are going to be viewing it, or people might be following you, they might stop, might unsubscribe, whatever. You might lose some people that way. But if you build yourself as a brand that is like I am, I'm just self-branded. You're just here hanging out with me, doing whatever I'm doing. Most of the time that happens to be woodworking, because that's pretty much what I do a lot of the time. But I certainly wouldn't hesitate to post something that is not woodworking related if I think it is valuable to my audience. So that's how I make the distinction personally, and I think that is probably a very personal question for anyone that is making their own videos and is putting themselves out online. Oh, another question from Mike. As I get into filming videos, Mike started a channel. He has a few videos up if you want to check out his channel. Right there, Mike. He gets temptation to go out and purchase sweet gear. What would be your recommendation for someone who's just wanting to get into posting videos for the woodworking community? I would say use what you have. And that is 100% true for me, but it just happened to be that I had the gear before I started the videos. So before I started doing the videos, I was into photography. So I had my DSLR right here. I already had this. So this was already something that I had in my life. So I literally used what I had. If I only had a cell phone, I'd use that, but this would be not as ideal. Just like this is not ideal because I can't see myself on that. Well, I can't. That's the kind of interesting thing with making videos about yourself. If you're the one on the camera, you actually have to be able to see what the camera sees. So you need something with a front-facing screen for the most part, unless you're really good at framing it and staying in frame, which is what I've been trying to do lately. But anyway, so I had that camera already, and I got my, I don't know where it is now. I have a little camcorder as well. I got that just to record my wedding. That was the only reason I bought that. It was cheaper than hiring a videographer, and we figured we probably wouldn't watch that video too often anyway. So it didn't need to be super perfect. We just wanted to capture the memories and the moments. So we bought that camera just for that. I think it was $300, something like that. And I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know why, but since I started making videos full time, I have not purchased any video equipment. I was sent these little fast cams, little kind of like a GoPro from FastCap to try out. But other than that, I have not purchased anything. I bought the one light kit I have. I bought that back when I was still working. And that's really it, to be honest. So I say use what you have and kind of figure out where the issues are and if it's worth spending the money for a more streamlined process. So I can tell you for sure that my process is not very streamlined with this thing because I can't, the video quality is amazing, but I can't see anything. So unless I am doing a video where I don't need to see this, I can have a tight shot and I'm kind of working down here, that's the only time this is really useful for me. So one of the things I want to do at some point is get an actual, either a DSLR with a flip screen or whatever, or an actual video camera. hot in here today. All right, Tim asks, okay, Matt, I love your videos and have a tremendous respect for you. Thank you. I even sent you a cutting board. That's right, Tim. I have that. We use it all the time. What's the deal with your hair? And how do you keep sawdust out of it? And is it true that one lock of your hair can sharpen carbide? That is true. 100% true. That's how I keep all my blades sharp. My hair is like this because my wife likes this. She likes this hairstyle. This is her thing. I am long right now because my wife does not want me cutting my hair and me being ugly for the baby. She does not want the baby to come into this world and think her or his or her father is ugly. So that's the hair. That's all I got for you on that one. Sawdust, I just let it get in there and then I give it a good shake and it comes right out. That's 3-1. Wow, that's a fast hour. I think I'll just keep going for a little bit. I mean, there seems to be a lot of questions here. I was thinking I wouldn't have enough questions, but I didn't even get to my saved questions. A good question from Tommy. If you build a new shop, would a mill be something that is part of that? I hope so. I think it would be. From two sides of things. So either I would get the mill to cut all the lumber to build the shop, which would be awesome. Or if I built a shop, I would have, and I had the money, I would have a dedicated area just for the mill. So maybe like a lean-to on the side of the shop where the mill could be, covered from the elements and the sun and stuff. But logs could still kind of get in and out of there pretty easily. I think that would be pretty awesome. Thank you, Peter. Just voicing his support for what I'm doing. Thank you, Peter. I love your videos. I love what you're doing. Keep up that stuff because you're one of my favorite channels to watch. Terry asks, what tool did you buy and never used over $100? I don't have any tools that I haven't used, to be honest. If I buy a tool, it's because I need it for a project and then I actually end up using it. I have tools that I no longer use that I keep around for whatever reason that cost me more than $100. Like my biscuit joiner, I haven't used that in probably 3 or 4 years. I used to use it all the time. The other thing is my dovetail jig. I have the 24-inch Porter-Cable Omni jig. I got that almost 4 years ago. I used it when I first got it, and then I got into hand-cutting dovetails, and then I haven't used it since, but I keep it around just in case. For that one time I want to do like a whole kitchen. I don't know when that's going to be, but someday maybe I want to do a whole kitchen where I don't care how the joints look. I don't want small pins. I can use that jig to do a whole thing of drawers or something like that. We also asked, have I ever done a tool review and how much do I get for it? Do I get to keep the tools? I have not done a tool review, a paid tool review, or any tool review on my channel. Manufacturers will either, it depends on they'll try and lowball you. I've noticed that. So they might send you a tool and say, we'll send you the tool if you do a review about it. I'm not into that. That's not something that I would ever agree to. If someone wants me to do a review on their tool, they're going to be paying me for it because it takes my time and it's worth more than the tool they're going to send me, to me at least, especially if I'm going to be presenting it to my audience. So I will not be doing any tool reviews anytime soon. Do I have received free product? I have received four free products. They'll send you stuff to have it in your shop so they get some of the videos, so product placement. But Clearview sent me the CV06, their little separator cyclone. Venable sent me their X-Carve, and then FastCap sent me 2 of these guys. But that is all of the free product I've received. Oh, and Dima sent me this mallet. Well, he gave it to me, but I only say his product because he sells them. So, but I know it was a gift. Thank you so much for that, Dima. Bob asks, or he says, thank you for doing this, Matt. Thanks for being here, Bob. Thanks for the question. Thanks for everyone else for being here. This is awesome. This is an amazing turnout. Thank you. He wants to know, have I gotten any offers from the working shows like Woodworking America? I have not received any offers, but we will be having a booth there at Woodworking America where you can come and meet a whole bunch of the woodworking video creators here on YouTube. And I will be there. Woodworking America was a blast last year, and I'm really looking forward to going again. And it's really crazy how fast it's come up already, because it's already like 2 months away, which is nuts. So I hope to see a bunch of you guys there. It should be a fun time. If you haven't been before, totally worth the experience just to be there and just meeting everybody. And the classes are good, but the experience with everybody just being in the same place is far superior to the classes. The woodworking team. Matt, how important is it to have extra lighting in your videos? You've seen some of my videos. I'm not sure if you remember the shop. I do. It's very well lit and painted a light yellow to reflect the light, but would be worth a loan to buy a few standalone lights. In my shop, for most of these shots you see me actually working, I don't use my, whatever you want to call it. Wow. The actually dedicated light kits. I don't really use them that much. For most of the shots of me building something, I just have the ambient light in the shop. My shop is fairly well lit. I think it's well lit for a shop. It's not well lit for a filming studio. So one of the things I want to do is add some more lighting to the ceiling, some more fluorescent tubes, especially over the bench, just to get a little more bright ambient light in here. The light kits are really, really nice for shooting things straight on. So as you can see right now, my eyes are pretty dark because there's no light coming this way at me. All the light's coming down from the ceiling. So if you're doing a shot like that and you want your face to be lit better, if you're doing a shot with like a flat piece and you're doing something on here, it might help to have a little bit of extra light. But even, check it out, that's just a lamp. And I use that as a fill light. So that works as well. So you don't have to have a fancy softbox kit either. You can use just a lamp. If it seems too harsh, maybe just put something opaque in front of it, or semi-transparent in front of it, I'm sorry. Like some frosted plexiglass or some wax paper or something, just to kind of soften the light a little bit. And that should help a whole bunch. Dima does something really interesting too, is he has the 4-foot shop lights. He has those and he mounted them to like a pole, and he has that as like an actual like light that he could just put, it's facing out. So it's normally it would be facing down, but this way it's facing out. So light actually goes out at you like a softbox. That's not like a cheap way to do it, because those are like $10. You can make your own stand for them. Braxton, you better make it out there, and if you'd like, you can buy me a beer, but I'll probably buy you one. So this is a really great question. For starting a small working business, what do you advise? Because I'd like to sell my produced products on small craft fairs. Do you think it's realistic? It absolutely is. And unfortunately, I can't give you a whole lot of advice from experience because that's not what I do. Dave Petrillo does a lot of great videos about doing craft fairs and selling yourself that way. I think it's a very viable and feasible way of doing it. The advice I can give you there is what I've seen other people do is spend a lot of time on, if you're going to do it online, especially if you're going to have any online presence, you're going to have some online marketing presence. So whether that be on, especially like on Instagram, you're probably going to want some kind of online store, obviously, but being out there showing off your products to other people and being found and searchable, especially on Instagram. I've seen that a lot lately. People are posting their stuff on there and people are actually buying it right there on Instagram. they'll just leave their PayPal email in the comments, and then the person selling it will just send them an invoice for that, and they can sell it that way. So there's plenty of different ways out there. I'm just not the best person to give really solid advice on that. Other than, make sure you sell your stuff for enough money that's worth it for you. All right, so Brian asks, who do I follow on YouTube these days? I subscribe to, you can go and look. My subscriptions are public. If you go to my channel page and you click on, I think it's the channel tab or something like that, you can see everyone that I follow, and there's 500 or 600 people there. I watch a lot of videos, and I really enjoy that. So it's a lot of fun to watch other people's videos and just kind of get ideas about what's going on in people's woodworking lives, or even not woodworking related stuff. So I watch a lot of stuff. What is my favorite beer? I don't know. I like a lot of different beers, so I don't really have a favorite. I like anything darker, like a porter, or my favorite. I guess my favorite beer, if I had to pick one, is a Downtown Brown, and that is brewed by the Pearl Street Brewery in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I haven't been able to find it up here in Minneapolis yet, so hopefully they'll start selling it here. But it is quite delicious. Simon asks, what tool have you been most excited about buying? I haven't bought a tool. I don't think I've bought any tools since I've started doing this full time, just because it's kind of hard to spend money. But if I had to, well, I guess I bought the planer, but that was more like a free trade kind of thing. The one thing that I'm really most excited about upgrading or getting is a better dust collector, because that works, but it's too small for this space, and it clogs way too fast. And I don't want to add a separator to it because that takes up more floor space. So I want to get a small cyclone. But the hard part about getting a cyclone for me is I have 7-foot ceilings and there's no way to go up or down. So I have to get a smaller portable unit, which costs more than the freestanding units. So that's that. What do you advise? There we go. What do you advise for people who don't have a lot of tools and don't have a dedicated place for a shop? I don't know about the dedicated place for a shop, because that you're going to need somewhere to put your stuff. So regardless, you're going to have some kind of storage for whatever tools you have. So any space you can find, if you're renting, maybe on the driveway or something like that, on the patio or the porch. Outside is probably a good way to go. I started outside and in the garage of our rental property, and I started with nothing. I bought a router on eBay, a cheap one, a old Craftsman one, probably from the 80s or 70s, and I did a lot of stuff with that. All of my joinery was with the router. Dados, rabbits, everything like that, it was all with the router. So I think the biggest thing about getting started, especially, and not having the tools to do whatever you want, is kind of figure out what kind of projects you want to make, and then figure out what kind of tools you really need to make those things. So if you need to make, I don't know what you're going to make, but if you want to make a crosscut, for instance, there's a lot of ways to make a crosscut, and you can kind of figure out what kind of tools down the line of. The unfortunate thing about not having the proper tooling is it's going to be a little more difficult or a little more time consuming to do the same thing. So, I mean, if you want to crosscut a board, you could literally go buy a handsaw for $5 at the hardware store and crosscut a board. That's going to take some skill to be able to get that line or that cut line square, for instance, and maybe clean or whatever. You can go buy a circular saw and you can do that a lot faster, maybe not as accurately as like on a crosscut sled on a table saw or on a miter saw, for instance. So really kind of figuring out exactly what operations you need to do, and then kind of figuring out the best way for you to be able to do those things is probably the best advice I can give you for that. Have I tried any other chainsaw mills besides the one I have? I have not. That's the only one I've tried. When I was looking for a chainsaw mill, when was that, like 2 years ago now? almost 2 years ago. Obviously, I looked at this one. I looked at the Granberg as well. The Granberg is very popular. A lot of people have that. The one I have is cheaper. Honestly, when I bought that, I bought it on cost alone because they literally do the same thing. They hold the saw at a fixed distance from a reference surface. That's what it did it for me. I'm like, this is a lot cheaper. I think it was $100 cheaper than the Granberg for that one. And I absolutely love it. It is extremely well built. And although I have not used the Granberg, I know it's made out of aluminum, and I know that's lighter. And I kind of see that as a little bit of an issue because the power head on the saw is hanging off the side of the log. So the less weight you have on this side, the more that mill wants to do this, right? So I don't know if it's really a problem with the Granberg or not, but I feel like in my mind that having the heavier mill puts more weight on the log side and kind of counterbalances that power head. But I don't know if that's actually true or not. That was just my rough logic, at least. But I really like the one I have. It's a Panther mill. It was $150 for the 42-inch model. They start at $120, I think, free shipping, and that is for the 24-inch or something. I don't know what the base size, and then for every 6 inches you go up in width, it goes up by $10. So I think it's an extremely, extremely good value, and they're all made by one guy in his shop in Florida. So I like that too. Have I thought about or started baby proofing the house yet? Am I going to want to teach my son or daughter about woodworking? We have not done any baby proofing. I've thought about it, and it sounds like a lot of work that I'm not looking forward to. I do want to teach them woodworking. I think they're going to probably learn this through being around anyway, because that's kind of a big part of my life, regardless. But more importantly is kind of instilling the values of being able to figure things out yourself. That's probably the one thing that I'm looking forward to teaching the most, because that's what was taught to me as a child. So that's been the most valuable thing in my life, is knowing that just because I don't know how to do something doesn't mean that I can't get it done, and I can't learn how to do that myself. So yeah. Another question from Maxwell. Does your wife get annoyed with the noise from machines in the shop while she is upstairs? Are you planning to sound insulate the ceiling for your baby girl's naps, or boy? Are you going to become a stay-at-home dad, or are you guys going to use childcare? The machine noise is from the inside of the house, is like a gentle white noise hum. There is really no like actual agonizing noise. For whatever reason, the shop itself is pretty well sound insulated as it is. From outside of the shop, from like the surrounding area, the neighbors, they can't really hear anything from inside their house. From outside the house, they can hear maybe a gentle hum, maybe the dust collector going, the planer going, the table saw cutting. It's not really loud. It's just it's an ambient noise at that point. So I'm not really planning on doing any more sound insulation. The nursery is on the other side of the house, so you literally cannot hear anything other than maybe a very gentle hum from over there, but that's about it. I'm going to become a stay-at-home dad unless things change and I get really busy with the business, and then we'll see about childcare. But at this point, childcare costs too much. Plain and simple. So unless I'm just raking it in for whatever reason or whatever, I don't know. I don't think we'll be doing that. Plus, I kind of like the idea of being able to raise my own children, but I say that now. We'll see. Dan wants to know about more Day in the Woods videos. I haven't been out there since May. Right now, Jim is working full-time. He works 12 to 14-hour shifts 6 days a week, I think. So he's pretty busy and doesn't really have much time for getting out there in the woods. So it probably won't be until the fall when he is done working for a bit that we'll be out there in the woods again. But I miss it a lot. A lot. I get this question a lot. What do I do with my sawdust? I throw it in a giant pile in the backyard in the little garden off to the side. I throw it in a big pile over there, and then I spread it out every few months just to cover the ground. And then I do that again. Make the pile, I spread it out. Make the pile, I spread it out, and it just decomposes over there. It's enough. There's enough surface area over there to spread out. I don't know, like 50 or so bags of dust collector chips, and that just kind of hangs out and rots, I guess. What kinds of projects sell the best? Something you can make a ton of at once and sell cheaper, or something high end? Just curious because I like to start making things to make some extra cash. That's a great question, and honestly, you gotta look at your market. Your target market, more than anything, is going to dictate what you can sell to them and how much you can charge for them and what they're interested in buying. If you're going to a craft fair, I haven't been to one in a long time, but there's probably going to be other people selling stuff there, so you're going to be competing with what the other people are selling. So you're probably going to be competing on cost. So in that case, you're probably going to want to make something that is cheap to make and cheap to sell as well. But if you are selling one-off things to people with a little more money and you're not competing with other creators for that same market, then you could probably go with something a little more high-end. It's really a marketing thing. Knowing your target market and being able to sell to that market is a very fundamental part of any business. Maxwell says, I think you should get one of those baby monitors, but they have cameras on them. We are getting one of those. They are great. I hope they are. And some allow you to talk to them through the monitor. We are considering that model as well. But regardless, we'll be getting one of the. We really like those ones where you can see them on your phone. So Lindsay can actually see the baby from work if she wants to see the baby sleeping or check in and whatever. And then I can also be in the shop while the baby's in the house sleeping. And I can actually see what's going on in there. So that's going to be awesome. I'm going to do a few more. I'm going for, we'll see. I got nothing else to do today except edit videos. So I can keep going, I guess, if you guys want to. Water break. I feel bad because I haven't gone to these other questions yet either. Got a bunch of these ones. But I think we covered some of them. Actually, we kind of covered a lot of these. So hopefully I'll get back to the people that sent me these questions and I'll let you guys know if I missed any of these. But it looks like I've covered all of these pretty much in passing for the most part. Yeah, that looks good. Oh, I got some questions here. I got one here. This is I thought this was a really good question from Andy. He asked, I know being able to sell lumber takes a lot of prep time in cutting and drying. How do you decide when you cut and mill? Or do you gather as many logs as you can and when it becomes available and then cut as needed? Or when are you bored of being inside the shop? Okay, so what I cut is what I can sell for the most part, or actually what I can store. And a lot of that comes, and what we cut comes into even more of a play of what can I sell, or what do I know that will sell. So if I'm out in the woods and I only have, I only got so much time in the day. So if I have 2 logs, I've got a cherry log and I've got a red oak log sitting out in the woods, and I can only take one. I'm taking that cherry log because I can sell that cherry lumber easier. And I was going to say for more money, but I charge the same amount of money no matter what species it is. But the cherry lumber is a lot easier for me to sell, and I know I'll sell it. I won't be sitting on it as long as red oak lumber, for instance. So that's kind of how I decide what to pull out of the woods or what to actually cut into lumber. And the same thing with the milling days. On the milling days, we have our logs stacked and we have them in priority groups. And we don't touch the lower, I don't want to call them lower grade, but they're just less desirable species of logs. until the end of the day, until the primary grouping has been cut, because the primary stuff is what will actually sell through a lot faster than the lower stuff. So the higher stuff is going to be like cherry for sure. That's going to be a bigger one. As I mentioned before, there's no walnut on that property where I cut the logs, but walnut I buy from another supplier, and that I buy because it sells no matter what. But going back to the sawmill thing, so the cherry is going to be first, maybe then maple, like ash, red oak, things like that. Those are going to be low priority. If we get them cut, we get them cut. I got some of that to sell, but the cherry logs are going to be the highest priority for us on sawmill day, because I know I can move that inventory. Joshua asks if I could give 3 tips to an inspiring, if you get 3 tips to inspire woodworker with hopes to one day making a living with it, what would it be? I guess it would depend on how far into it you are. I'm going to give this tip to anyone that wants to make a living doing anything, no matter what thing you're doing. If you're doing something you love and you're doing something like, I don't know, woodworking, and you want to start your own business, you're starting a business. 3 tips. Learn about business. More than anything, you need to really understand what you're doing as far as a business goes. Because if you can't run a business, you're going to be out of business pretty quick, and you won't be making a living, and you won't be doing what you love anymore. So more than anything regarding the woodworking itself is, if you want to do it for a living, understand business, understand marketing, understand everything that goes on behind the scenes of running a business, no matter what that thing is. Because honestly, when you're doing something you love, that thing you love, you understand that just fine, and you can probably just do that just fine. There's no issue there. But that's only part of your actual business. You actually have all this other stuff. You need to be able to control your cash flow. You need to understand, depending on what you're doing, maybe inventory management, turnover rates. There's a lot of things that go into running a business besides just producing things and doing what you love. So I think more than anything, if you're going to be doing something you love for a living, understand the business you're going into. Understand that market. That is my tip. And if you just, as a tip for an aspiring woodworker trying to get better, just keep working at it. That's how I'm still doing that. I'm still getting better. Every single time I make something new, I'm getting continually better, and my products are getting better. My skill level is getting better. That's just the way that I've learned, and I've been getting better over the years. So more and more and more, practice, practice, practice. And I guess you can do the same thing with business as well. You'll make those mistakes, but it's a little more, it's harder to rebound from a solid business mistake, because then you're actually losing money most of the time. Then just I had to replace this project part, for instance. So that is my answer to that. I hope that helped. Dave Stir, have you considered doing a small on-site class, one-on-one classes? I have, but I honestly don't have the space. It's tight in here. It's like really tight. So I don't have the room to do a one-on-one class, but I will be doing the online classes. So I think that's kind of like the best way to go about it, because I don't have to worry about how much space the students are taking up, because there's barely enough space in here for me. So unfortunately, one-on-one classes will have to wait till a bigger space. Do I have any other hobbies? Not right now. Woodworking was my hobby. Making lumber was my hobby, and those are now my profession, I guess. I used to be into, going back reverse chronological, photography before that, then videography, I guess photography, and then like computers, building computers, computer support, electronics, stuff like that. And then, what did I just say? Videography before that. Yeah, I think. Investing. That's been fun too. I've done that for a while. But I've had a lot of hobbies over the years, and this is kind of the one that stuck. more than anything. If not for YouTube, do you think you could professionally support your family with woodworking alone? No, probably not. YouTube is my marketing, plain and simple. All of a lot of the things I'm doing and I'm planning on doing will be marketed through the YouTube channel. So that is the only reason you know about me and what I do is because of that YouTube channel for the most part, generally speaking. But yeah. I guess that kind of goes back to the earlier questions about selling the work and why I don't sell any of my work, or I don't sell a lot of my work. And that's because that being able to sell those high-end pieces is a niche market of the furniture buying market, and it would take me a lot of time. It would take a lot of time, and my marketing effort would have to be focused on finding that market, finding those customers that would be buying furniture pieces that cost in the thousands of dollars. We're not talking about, oh my God, this dresser cost me $200. We're talking, oh my God, this dresser costs $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So it's out there, but it's not the direction that I want to go in. That's all. What's up, Bob? Shouldn't you be working on something? Oh, Bob. He wants to know if any specific plans for the welder. I am going to be modifying my trailer for picking up logs. There are trees being cut down all the time. So basically yard trees. There are trees being cut down for whatever reason. People don't want them in their yards, or they're blowing down in storms or whatever. And if I had a way to actually go and get them without like renting a bobcat to go pick up this log and then all that stuff. So I'm going to be building a trailer, or a log trailer. It's going to have a log arch on the back so that I can pick up logs with a winch and swing them onto the bed of the trailer, or pick them up off the back from the backside and swing them and plop them down onto the bed of the trailer. So that'll allow me to go and pick up logs around the city. So that was a capital investment in my lumber business, I guess. How much of your work is for yourself and family, and how much is for customers? The only project I've done on the YouTube channel that has been a project for a customer was the tea chest, and I guess the coffee table was a gift, but everything else has been for us. All right, I'm gonna go through a couple of these. A couple quick questions down here. I'm gonna go through real quick, and then I think I'm gonna call it. It's an hour and a half. It's a pretty long time. Woodstuff wants to know if I'm part of any woodworking guild or club in my local area. Yes, I'm part of the Minnesota Woodworkers Guild here it's in Minnesota. And they had a meeting last night that I missed because I was on a date with my wife, trying to get a baby to come out. Would I build the Roubo bench again? Absolutely. I love it. It taught me so much about my own workflow and my own way of working that I didn't know I was missing out on before. And it's done everything I've wanted to do. I have never found anything that I couldn't do on it yet. And just overall, it's been a very large improvement to my woodworking as a whole. So yeah, I'd do it again. And I'd be able to build it faster because I know what I was doing. What size chainsaw do you use for slabbing? I use a Stihl 046. It's 77cc, and I use the bigger bar I have is a 42-inch bar. I also use my 28-inch bar for cutting smaller stuff. It works just fine. It's a little slow, I guess, if you are really trying to make a living cutting stuff with the chainsaw mill. The stuff I cut with my chainsaw mill, I kind of do it more for fun and more for the thrill, I guess, or the challenge of cutting a giant log, because those are kind of hard to cut with any other kind of tool because you can't move them very easily. But the bigger the better with the motor for sure. And if you can get some kind of setup with like a lawnmower engine on there, it's even better. Joshua asked about how I got started in the lumber business. I met my friend Jim in 2012. My neighbor introduced me to him. He knew him, and he knew that he was starting to do the lumber thing himself. And I went out to meet him and buy some lumber from him. I bought some cherry from him. And I mentioned in passing that if you wanted some help out in the woods getting logs sometime, just let me know. I'd love to go out there and just help him with it. And it kind of went from there. He was doing all the sales back then, and then he decided that it wasn't really something he liked and enjoyed very much, because it is kind of hard to deal with people sometimes, especially people that are really picky and don't really understand the value. Well, they come at it like they're going to a real lumber yard where they're like, I want select. So I go through this whole stack of boards and they're all perfect. And the part they don't understand about that is then they pay twice the amount of money I'm asking for the lumber that I'm selling as well. So that's why he didn't want to do that anymore. But so I started selling the lumber for him, just posting the ad on Craigslist, and I had people coming by, and I just kind of went from there, I guess. Brandon asked if I'm making more live videos like this one. I hope so. I think this was a really great turnout, and it went a lot better than I thought it would. So I don't see why not. I might as well do this. This is a lot of fun for me, so I might as well do this more often, maybe every month or every other month or something. Would be probably a good way to go about it, I guess. Brian asked, what type of tongue groove bit did I use for my flooring? I didn't use a tongue groove bit. I used my table saw with a dado stack for the entire thing. Everything was done on the table saw. All of the machining, ripping it to width, ripping the final width, tongue, groove, and relief cuts all on the table saw. Art says, you never sleep, do you? I slept today for 7 hours. I usually sleep from 3 a.m. until about 10 a.m. or something like that, somewhere in there. Maybe 10, 9, somewhere in there. So that's usually when I'm sleeping. I get a lot of my work done between midnight and 3 in the morning for whatever reason. That's just when I'm the most productive. Do I use the gripper? Nope, don't have one. Never used one. I would love to see you do a pallet project. Are you ever going to do one? I have no intentions on doing pallet projects. I did one. I did the birth announcement in January, and I have pallet wood that I put into some of the cutting boards because they were cherry pallet wood. So that's about as pallet woody as I plan on getting. I don't really care for the whole taking the pallet apart, pounding out the nails thing. It's not a lot of fun. Mark Stewart asks, what would I recommend for the first tool when setting up a home shop in a half a car to 2-car garage, or half of a 2-car garage? Wow. I currently have a cordless drill, German tool, electric hand planer, and jigsaw. I started in a 1-car garage, and I started with a miter saw and a router, and I built a lot of stuff with that. And as I found more projects that I wanted to do, I bought the tools I needed to build those projects. I got long-term borrowed my dad's table saw. It was a portable Craftsman saw. I used that for a few months, and then I bought the rigid saw that I have now. But I really started with pretty much nothing. But I think I've probably said that before, is just kind of pick a project, figure out what kind of cuts you're going to need to make, figure out what tooling is going to work best for you given your budget to get that done. And maybe you can't do that project based on your budget at this time, but maybe you can do it in the future. Or your skill level's not there. That's possible too. I have that problem. There's plenty of projects that I want to do. And I think I'm just kind of getting to the point now where I'm comfortable with my skill level to pretty much tackle all of my dream projects. Haven't welded yet. Never welded before. Haven't used this welder yet. I got to run an outlet for it and go buy all the welding stuff, helmet, gloves, sticks, a rod or whatever, all that stuff, hammer, brushes. Baby is unknown to us. I use him and her interchangeably. Sorry. Any experience with an underpowered chainsaw mill and what doesn't work? So when I first got my chainsaw mill, I didn't have that saw that I use now. I had it was a Steel 039. That's a 64cc saw, and it works. It's probably, I wouldn't say half as fast as the one I have now, but it's slower. You have two things to consider with a smaller actual power head on that mill. You have the actual cut time, which isn't really a problem because you're just cutting slower. It's not really a problem for the saw in most cases, which I'll get to in a second. But if you're using that smaller saw, it's going to take you longer to cut through that log, which is not really an issue if you're just doing it for fun and you don't really care how long it takes. Now, if it is a cheap saw and it cannot run on full throttle for like a half hour at a time, then you're going to kill that saw. As plain and simple as what's going to happen to it. If you don't give it, and if you run it lean, it'll die. You'll seize that piston. So if you're using a quality saw, I wouldn't worry about having too small of a saw for a mill. It's just going to take you a ridiculously long time to cut through a log. That's all. What's my favorite wood? My favorite wood to work with is walnut. My favorite wood to look at is cherry. Mario asks, what I do for a living? I talked about that earlier. My degree is in finance, or in business with a specialty in, or focus in finance, and I have a minor in information systems. Brian asked if I had a video about cutting the wood for flooring. I don't have it yet. I'm still making and installing the flooring, and that'll be one big video when it's all done. We're going to take a walk in the woods and look at some stumps because I don't have any videos of those trees being cut down. But we're going to go all the way through the process from tree, milling, drying, and then milling flooring, installing flooring, and finishing flooring as well. So it's going to be one heck of a video. Charles asked if I have an opinion on subscription wood shops. For me, I know that they would not work for me. And here's why. I don't want to share space with someone because the things that I do, I need to be able to leave my workspace set up and just have it be there when I come back. So it's not like I can come in, I can finish up. I don't want that feeling of I only have 2 hours to get this thing done, and then I have to clear down for the next person. And I just like to have my own space just to be able to do whatever I want. And if I want to leave it a little messier, I can do that. If I want to leave something out, I can do that. I think it's a good option if you're doing smaller projects that you can do those steps completely within the allotted time you have to be there. That's a good option for you if it's something you can kind of swing. I just know personally for me, it would be very difficult for me to be able to enjoy that experience. That's all. All right, I think that's probably it. Let me just go through here, make sure everything quick I can answer. Yes, my phone's on vibrate, and that was my mom and my wife saying that they could see me. They're watching the show. There are no trees to cut down on my property. I have a 1/4 acre in a suburb. If I lose any in a storm, I will cut them into lumber, but I have no plans on actually cutting any of my trees down at this point. They're all mature though. What else we got? How much I use my scroll saw? I haven't used it in, I don't know, like I use it for the birdhouse build to cut the birdhouse hole. Before that, I hadn't used it for like 3 years. I bought it originally to cut gears for what was called those little gear clocks, whatever they're called. I forgot what they're called. Those clocks, they're all wooden. The wooden gear clocks, those things. I was making one of those. Never finished it. A lot of questions here. Thanks, Mark. How to make dovetails without a dovetail marker or a bevel gauge. The angle doesn't matter. You can cut them to whatever angle you want. So just if you cut them tails first or pins first, doesn't matter because you're going to be transferring that angle from the first cut, the first thing you cut, either the tailboard or the pin board, to the other board, either the pin board or the tailboard. So the angles don't have to be the same. They can be all different. Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the second board matches the first one. So just start cutting and just match the second board up. That's all you need. How much would a used chainsaw sawmill set cost? I can tell you how much mine cost. I paid $150 for the mill itself, the little metal thing that goes on the saw. And then I bought the chainsaw itself for $450. It's used. If you want to go buy one brand new, they're $1,100. Yeah. Okay, I think we answered everything, or if people have questions sitting here, I answered them at other points in this. All right. So before we go, I thought I would show. Oh, I missed this one. Looking to buying some old planes on Craigslist to restore for my own use. How much should I expect to pay for an old rusty Stanley Bedrock plane? It's going to depend on the plane itself, what length it is, or what size it is. If it's like a number 4, and if it's really rusty, I would be cautious about something that's overly rusty because you don't know how much damage is there. If it's overly pitted, that could be a problem. If the sole is cracked, you probably don't want to bother with it. If it's really, and again, if it's really rusty and pitted, you're going to be spending a lot more time cleaning it up. So I probably wouldn't pay more than $20 for something that I was going to have to spend. I mean, you're going to spend, you're honestly, if you're going to restore a plane, you're going to be spending like at least 4 hours just rubbing it on stuff. It's really boring and it's really time consuming. So the better a plane you can find from the start, the less time you have to spend actually restoring, and then the higher chance you have of obtaining a plane that actually works in the end. Shane asked, how did I learn all this? The internet and videos and getting up my shop and just doing it, I guess. Dream build. What would be my dream build? Then my product that I want to build, I'm not skilled enough to do yet. I would really want to build a Bombay secretary. That would be awesome. They are extremely difficult to build as far as a woodworking project goes. That is a dream build of mine. Something a little bigger, I want to build my own timber frame shop. like a true timber frame shop with integral Morrison tenon and pegs, just because that sounds like a lot of work and I'm into that. So I think that's going to do it for today. Looking through the questions, it looks like I answered them all at some point, and they are just kind of repeats. I do want to show you real quick a little update on the crib. Before we go, I started working on the spindles yesterday. Here's one of them. So I have them, they're going to be going into 1/2-inch holes in the rails, and then they are tapered in the middle to a full thickness of the stock I was using, which was 15/16 in the center. And then it tapers down to 1/2 inch on both ends. And I did that on the lathe with a router and a spiral bit in a little jig. I can show you the jig real quick. There's also a picture of it on my Instagram page. If you can kind of see that. You can still hear me if I go over there. This whole thing has a slight curve in it so that when the router is bottomed out or touching all the way to the finish point here, by the time it gets to the end point down here and down here, the spindle will be at 1/2 inch or just a little above that. I went for a little bit thicker so that I could pound the end of it through my dowel plate to get that connection point into the rail to be perfectly at 1/2 inch. So that's what's going on with that. I think that's about it today. Thank you for everyone for stopping by. I was only planning on doing this for like 45 minutes to an hour, but I didn't realize there'd be so many just awesome questions. I hope I answered questions well enough. If you do have any more questions about whatever, you can send them to me. I'd be happy to try and answer those. I'll probably do another one of these maybe at the end of August or something, or maybe in September. We'll see. It went really well, so I want to thank everyone for coming out today, stopping by, asking a question, and all that good stuff. Thank you to everyone for all of your support. I really appreciate everyone who is just part of the overall experience here on the channel, because without the viewers, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you to every one of you out there. And that's it. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, or if it's Thursday where you live already, enjoy your Thursday, and I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.